Hello and welcome to Founders Amplified, where we spotlight underrepresented founders who are driving innovation and impact across various industries and sectors across the globe. I'm your host, Narayan Kulkarni, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Today's guest is Dr. Adejoké Babington-Ashaye. Dr. Adejoké Babington-Ashaye is the founder of Conseil, the Mentorship Network, a platform dedicated to democratizing access to mentorship and career guidance for professionals across Africa and beyond. With more than 20 years of experience in international law, public policy, and leadership, she brings a unique blend of global expertise and deep commitment to nurturing talent. A mentor and changemaker, she launched Conseil to ensure that no one feels alone in their career journey, creating a vibrant community where over 300 members connect with mentors, gain clarity, and access opportunities that transform lives. Originally from Nigeria, and with a career spanning international organizations and leadership spaces, Dr. Babington-Ashaye has witnessed firsthand the barriers that many professionals face in accessing quality mentorship. Under her leadership, Conseil has become a trusted space that bridges generations, industries, and geographies, empowering individuals to build purposeful, sustainable careers. Known for her warmth, clarity, and strategic insight, she continues to champion equity in professional development with a bold vision to level the playing field so that geography or circumstance never limits potential. So, now that you know a little bit more about Adejoké, let's dive in to the conversation. Welcome to Founders Amplified, Adejoké. It is amazing to have you with us today. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me. I've been following you and I'm really excited to be on Founders Amplified. Thank you.
You're most welcome. And yes, like we also connected some many months ago. So it's great to be in this forum and have this conversation. And yeah, like I'm very excited to hear more about your story, and let's get started. So the first thing I'd love to know more about is a little bit about your journey. So could you tell us what led you to become a founder, and if there are any particular moments or experiences that sparked that decision?
Sure. So I became a founder because I noticed a recurring challenge in the professional world where talented individuals often did not have access to quality mentorship or quality guidance as they were trying to navigate their careers. And then even more so for people in the global South. They may have dreams and hopes, but they just needed that additional perspective or guidance, and they didn't have access to that. And so the idea behind Conseil is to bridge that gap, especially, that diversity gap where you have folks in the global South who may not have access to quality guidance, and we're just essentially connecting you. So long as you've got data on your phone, you can join a free, Zoom mentoring call. You're welcome. That's essentially what we do. And I created Conseil to respond to that challenge that I was noticing. And in a way, in terms of my own journey and what sparked that, I would say that I've been very blessed in my life to be surrounded by people who have guided me. There's no one grows alone. There are many people who say, "Oh, I'm a self-made millionaire," or "I'm a self-made entrepreneur." Well, technically, no. You probably had someone at some point in time plant a seed, nurture the seed, and so on and so forth. And I just think it's so important to build that ecosystem and build that community. And that's really what propelled me in this direction of supporting through mentorship and community.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. A few things I really appreciate that you mentioned, and I know because we've had conversations before. I'm aware of what you do. So, for example, and also as you mentioned the intro, right? You're from the global South. You understand the importance of access in the global South, but also how integral community building is in many cultures. who are in global South countries. Also, to a point that you made, which I really appreciate, is the aspect of what is called self-made, where in reality there are in entrepreneurship. I know
Right.
because I mentor lots of people as a startup mentor. There is a community of mentors that function in a one-off way or in a more advisory and longer-term way, which can be really valuable. So I appreciate that you've talked about those, but also, and of course, talking about the importance of career development and how that is such an important area of focus in many parts of the world and virtually every country. So I appreciate that. Now, I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into this. So, and you have a really interesting career journey, and your vision around Conseil is very creative. So, could you tell us more about your personal why around starting Conseil and how your career journey has shaped the vision behind what Conseil is trying to do? And also for people who are maybe not as familiar with what Conseil means, could you tell us more
Yeah.
about that and how that relates to this?
Absolutely. So Conseil, spelled Konseye, is actually a Haitian Creole word that is connected to the French word conseil, which is essentially advice or mentor. And so I wanted to be able to have something, again, drawing from a language from the Global South that addresses the essence of what we do at Conseil, which is providing advice, guidance, support. And for me, I would say that my Nigerian roots, so I'm Nigerian, combined with, over 2 decades in international law, public policy, working in various international organizations, I have a very global perspective, while at the same time very grounded in the realities that many people from the Global South experience as professionals navigating their career. I have experienced firsthand the barriers that people can face, whether it's lack of access or you're finally in a room and you don't see representation, you don't see people that look like you. It really does have an impact on how far and wide you can dream about your own opportunities. And part of what we try to do at Conseil is to really break down those barriers and say, listen, we're going to connect you with some amazing people who are doing amazing things and want to give back. They want to support you too. And just building that ecosystem. And like I said earlier, it's really drawing from my own experiences. So I remember when I worked at the International Criminal Court, I observed that other investigators like me who were relatively young or mid-level were also seeking mentorship. And so I went up to the head of the investigations division and I said, hey, I would like to start a pilot mentorship program. Right. And so they started it. And even after I left and I transitioned and moved on to the International Court of Justice, they were still running that program. And so I think there's a big thirst and hunger for not just acquiring knowledge in your traditional way of going to school, but acquiring knowledge from other people's lived experiences, people who are able to know and understand and relate with you, and then share and guide you. But there's also a thirst, and this is what I love our Conseil mentors for, because there's a thirst to give back and a hunger to give back as well. So we're just creating the rooms where people who desire and people who desire for the knowledge and people who desire to give back are able to be together and build the networks. I want to point out one of the key slogans for Conseil is with the right network, anything is possible. And I think, you and I will probably have witnessed that, and we can see that in the world, that a lot of people get opportunities due to the networks that they have. And again, I hate the fact that many people simply don't have access only because of where they live, where they were born, and the opportunities that were handed to them by life. And so, what Conseil is trying to do is to break that. We're going to help you build your network. Obviously, it's up to each individual member to build and nurture the network, but we're going to connect you. And, with the right network, anything is possible.
Well said. There's so many things you talked about, which I love that you mentioned, and I just want to emphasize for our audience. So, first of all, I think that there's strong symbolic power in the fact that Conseil is a Haitian Creole word, and also you're someone from Nigeria, right? So, for people who are not as familiar with world history, how Haiti came into being, also like some of the challenges that are there in Haiti, that like has one dimension of struggle, but also I think there is a symbolic aspect of how Haitian Creole is a language. It mixes together. It is at the confluence of different cultures, and that provides a very unique, very wonderful identity for which one has a grounding of tradition, but also more global culture. So I think that symbolically, I think is really cool. Also, the fact that you bring in your perspective as a Nigerian, again, for people who are not so familiar, Nigeria is such a diverse um, country with so many different cultures. And one underpinning thing, I've talked to many different people who are like Muslim, Christian, from like Igbo, Yoruba, etc. There's so many like traits of like family, community,
Yes.
storytelling. There's so many different elements to Nigerian culture, which makes it like wonderful. So I think symbolically, I think that's also powerful. Also, I thought one thing you mentioned, which is interesting, two things. So first of all, the aspect of seeing how in a very technically and high stakes place like the ICC, seeing that like there was a need for that mentorship, and also to the point about hunger and the correctness of network. There's so much, and I love how you contextualize desire and hunger for mentorship from both perspectives and how it's very applicable in many different ways. So there's so many things you mentioned, which I think set a really important context for the why and the how around mentoring. But now I'd love to know more about the what. And if you could tell us a little
Right.
bit more about the innovative things that you're doing with Conseil. So you and I both know this, but like there are many different mentorship networks out there, communities out there. What is unique or different about the way in which you do mentorship with Conseil?
Right, thank you. So first of all, I love the fact that there's so many different opportunities for people to get, mentorship and so on. Again, in this world, I think, the more the merrier. So what makes Conseil stand out though is really what you've already pointed out, that community aspect. So for us, it's so easy for people to say, well, I want to have a one-time session with somebody, or I want to just have a session by myself. That's available in on various platforms. What we do, for instance, is when we offer our free mentorship sessions, they're group mentoring sessions, and it's a maximum of 5 people in a group. It's almost like visualizing sitting on the floor, listening, even though it's all virtual, it's on Zoom, but it's almost like, sitting on the floor, listening to, the mentor, asking each other questions, learning from the answers, learning from the questions that someone else in the room has asked and the answers that that person has given. I feel like we grow in community, and that's one thing. I've noticed, for example, I had a mentoring session. The way I do my mentoring sessions when I do the Conseil sessions is, I'm inviting. There isn't I don't have a monopoly over knowledge. Just because I'm there as the mentor doesn't mean I know everything. There are people in the room that also have amazing knowledge, and I invite them to share as well. And I've noticed, for example, people then saying, "Oh, you have this problem. I can help you with that." And then you then build those connections. One of the things that again Conseil tries to do is to establish and help you create connections that will not ordinarily exist. And so that's when we have our community group sessions, our free group mentoring sessions. That's what happens there. Then we also have resources that we provide to our members, and membership of Conseil is free. So again, this is to ensure accessibility, so that it's not a situation where, because of whatever challenges you may be facing, you're not able to get guidance. So members get free group mentoring sessions. They also would get access to weekly resources to help them in their career, professional, and also personal growth. Conseil looks at everything holistically. You can say, well, I want to grow in my career. I want to learn the hard skills. Do you have the soft skills? Do you understand the importance of networking? Do you understand other things for your growth? It's not only one side. And so we try to look at everything holistically, and we provide the resources to our members. We also have a community forum where members can come together, ask each other questions. There's the value of peer-to-peer mentoring as well. So that's the whole thing. Like I said, this ecosystem that we try to build, we try to dismantle some of the myths and misconceptions around mentoring, where people think, well, I could only get mentoring from somebody who has 10 million years ahead of me. Like, no, you can also be mentored and supported and guided by your peer, or someone who is even younger than you. It's like me saying I want to learn AI or I want to learn certain things. It will be foolish of me to think that, well, I'm not going to listen to someone else just because they're younger than me. That wouldn't make sense. And so if I'm committed to my career growth, I will be open to all of that. And what Conseil does is to say, well, come unto us, all ye who are committed to your growth, and we're here to support you.
Amazing. I love that the fact that you're talking about both creating an ecosystem where people are able to engage, it sounds like, with multiple different modalities of mentoring, allowing, of course, access to for mentorship through free offerings, resources to those who may not be there. But also, in addition to the holism that you provide, but also one thing I love is the point about framing. So, for example, like I heard to rephrase or to paraphrase, like being in a virtual room, like a virtual Zoom meeting in which people are like sitting down again. For me, that evokes like stories of like storytelling traditions, for example, where
Yeah.
people they sit together and then they
Yeah,
listen to like someone who is guiding or providing perspective, and that is something that exists in many different cultures around the
right.
world, or like has in like currently or also in the past in many different cultures. So I think that symbolism, I think, and the way that you framed it, I think is also really powerful. So I
Thank
appreciate that. Now, but that leads me to something I'm curious about. So you've talked about the importance of how community, the right network, can go ahead and really make a difference for individuals. And I'm would love to know if you could share with us a specific example. So has there been a conseil mentor who had a perspective or career that was really revolutionized or transformed due to what you're doing and with your platform or your modality? And what did that experience teach you about the power of mentoring?
Right. Oh my gosh, there's so many stories. There are too many stories to pick from.
I'm
Um,
sure there are many, but if you could maybe share one or
I
two
know,
with
I'm
us,
gonna
that'd be
try. I'm gonna
awesome.
try. I think there's one story that forever sticks with me, and this is our very first session in early 2023, and we were able to connect a veterinarian in rural Ethiopia with an expert from the World Animal Health Organizations based in Paris. And it was just an amazing for me, in a way, it was reaffirming to me the need for Conseil and what we do. And it just being able to provide that connection, being able to facilitate that conversation, and for the veterinarian who's in Ethiopia to be able to walk away not just with inspiration and guidance and also like encouragement that yeah, you're on the right path with those ideas and projects that you're doing to take care of your rural community, but also walking away with actionable tools and strategies. And that is the essence again of what we're doing. It's not just simply, it's not a talk in the sense of, you can watch an inspirational talk online and so on, and that's great, but you also want to equip people and empower people. And so we have that example. We have examples of members supporting themselves in an accountability challenge. So members saying, okay, we're really passionate for our professional growth. So this year, 2025, we're going to hold ourselves accountable and, check in on each other on certain tasks each month. And that's been going on all year. Like I said, I could give you so many examples, but those are two that kind of like pop in mind that one reinforce, yes, we are on the right track in terms of what Conseil is doing. We are meeting a need. And it's just so heartwarming every time. The joy never gets old when people like leave the sessions or leave our community hangouts that we do from time to time. They leave those spaces empowered with newer perspectives. Yeah, it certainly makes me feel like we're on the right path.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. I love that you've talked about both the encouragement and motivation that comes from a session, as well as the tangible action that creates through the example we shared. And also, of course, um, the power of for two individuals across the world being able to connect. Also, I want to underscore for our audience, like sometimes that can create unusual or different synchronicities. I'll give you a personal example. So, in one of the mentorship programs that I'm a part of, so I was matched with someone who is in another country in West Africa, and so this is someone who is in does it wants to go into a agriculture related career, and so I did not anticipate, but this person, they had interests related to entrepreneurship. And I was able to go ahead and share that with them. Okay, I have this entrepreneurship perspective and
Yeah.
talk to them about that. Also, I was not aware but they like their predominant language is French, and I studied French, and so I was able to they asked me actually routinely, hey, can you help me with translating into French? Because it's a predominantly English speaking program, and so that also really helped them, and I was able to use my understanding of French culture, and you helping them navigate AI with French and like using like language through AI and like those lessons. So I want to use that as another example to which you've alluded to, but I want to make clear for our audience and bring to the shared discussion where yes, if you mash together people and you put them into an audience, you give them an audience, the mentee an audience and the mentor an
Mhm.
audience, and if you create that space in a powerful way, that can lead to unusual synchronicities, which can be really powerful for all involved. So I appreciate that I want to share that because I appreciate that you've shared this example, which speaks to that. Now, you've obviously created a lot of impact in the lives of the mentees and the mentors that are part of Conseil. And I would love to zoom out and learn more about your vision for Conseil. So can you tell me and our audience where you see Conseil going in the next 5 to 10 years? And more broadly, what do you see the role of mentorship and networking um, having in developing like leadership, future of work, the economy of West Africa, African countries, the globe more broadly. I know it's a big question, but like I'm sure you have a big vision. Also, as you alluded to, you have broad experience. I'm curious what your perspective lends itself to this question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So 5 to 10 years, I would love to see how through the network, Conseil members are able to step into more leadership roles, step more deeply in their purpose. So part of what is central to what we're doing in terms of supporting people in their career is also helping them align with your purpose. For me, I love to say, yes, there are certain things that we have to do in life that may not be exactly what we dreamt of. But what we're trying to do with Conseil is to equip you, create those connections. Who knows? That can bring you into the very thing that would help you blossom, that would make your soul sing. And I use that reference because I'm also a musician. I'm a musician activist as well. So I know the importance of being able to wake up in the morning working on things that you love. And so for those of our members that are currently maybe, still trying to figure out, I'm hoping that in the next 5 years through being in the network, connecting with various mentors, expanding their network beyond their specific industry. Again, that's what we do at Conseil to say, listen, don't just stick to one particular industry because with the right network, anything is possible. You don't know who knows who knows what, and which door is going to be opened as a result of which connection. So think broadly and think widely. And so, yeah, I hope then, to be able to see that, to get those, those stories where people then feel empowered themselves after being empowered to go on and empower others, right? So back to community, the whole idea is to keep passing it on. And that's, yeah, that's sort of like my vision for Conseil. We're global. We are, of course, ensuring that we're removing barriers to access for the global south, connecting global south and global north. But we're just, the goal is to help people realize and nurture their dreams, one person at a time, basically.
Well said. And I love that you mentioned a lot of like points like access, for example, community, which you've also referenced before, but some things which I really love that you mentioned were, for example, how important it is for within an ecosystem, but also in the lives of individuals, the power of purpose and how that can be really transformational when looked at over time and also in like 5 to 10 years, but also
Right.
at say a global scale. The other thing which I love that you mentioned to use slightly different terms is the power of weak ties in many countries and many cultures, many industries, mentorship, again, we both know this, of course, a lot of people who are in mentoring roles conventionally know this. It's oftentimes thought of in terms of functionally very vertical in within the same industry. But yes, like if it's done in a more horizontal way, it's thought of in terms of strong ties, but if in terms of weak ties, where there are very few individuals who are like with their minimal connections and also in unexpected places
Right.
based off things like ideas, for example, or personality type or other areas that can, of course, lead to unusual, powerful, amazing synchronicities. So
Yeah.
I want to add that because I think that speaks to something that you shared, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah.
Now,
And
that
just to
leads
add to
me, yeah, go ahead.
that, if I could just
Mhm.
add to that, because basically, I mean, for me, I have to say that I live that. You know, when you, whether it's network intentionally, but not from a place of desperation or whatever, there are amazing synchronicities that can come about, you know. There are amazing things that can happen. I've experienced that and I love to hear those stories. And I'm definitely hearing those stories from those who join the Conseil sessions, who are in the Conseil community, and they're sharing that. And I know it works, you know, and yeah, I just wanted to add to what you said. It's yeah, it's very important.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for your addition to what I said, and also thanks for your perspective. Now, it sounds like you've had a really amazing journey in terms of building conseil as well as learning more about mentorship. So my next question is more of a two-part question. So what is one thing you know now about being a founder that you wish you'd known before starting? And what's one thing you now know about global mentorship that you wish you had known before you started?
Hmm. Okay, so the first one, in terms of what I wish I knew about being a founder, is that you have to be prepared to be everything and like everywhere at the same time. And you know, it's one thing to have the vision, one thing to have the ideas, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, a lot of unseen work that is needed in order to bring your vision to reality. And sometimes, I mean, I guess if you're starting out fresh and you're like, you know, fresh-eyed and excited about it, you may not fully count the costs or fully realize just exactly how much is required of you to give birth to your vision and not only give birth, but nurture it and help it to eventually be able to walk. So I'm drawing that baby analogy, right? So you like, you know, you then, of course, something like can say as a community, the idea too is to then, you know, have others that see the vision and then run with the vision too. And I love that I'm seeing that because, for example, I had mentioned to you earlier that we've got an event coming up, and that event was really from one of our community members. It's our inaugural Career Impact Summit, where we're bringing together change makers, thought leaders, experts across various industries, various aspects dealing with various topics such as professional development, career strategy, the future of work in AI, all designed to equip people as they develop their career, regardless of the stage, regardless of the industry. And this came from the community member because he understood the vision of Kansei. So that's the kind of stuff where, you know, I wish I knew that just how much work was needed. But then I'm so full of joy when, you know, others are able to see the vision and then say, hey, I'm going to run with it. It almost feels like when you're running a relay and then you're able to eventually pass the baton on. And that's what I hope for. And I hope every founder also has that sense. You don't just want to be in your little cocoon developing this thing. Yes, it's your vision and your idea, but it's to solve a problem that you've observed, and you want others to be able to jump into it. Second question was, what have I learned now about mentorship? Is that
Global
it?
mentorship.
About global mentorship. Right. Um, it's a great question. What have I learned now about global mentorship that I wish I knew? Um, hmm. That I don't have right at the top of my head a great answer. And I think it's because before I launched, that was one area where I did do a lot of research to understand what was out there, the various ways of doing mentorship. And so by the time I was starting Conseil, I feel like I had a good grounded and also then being able to say, well, what do I want Conseil to do differently? Like we discussed already, that there are many different mentorship platforms out there. That's excellent. So in addition to providing mentorship, Conseil is really bringing that community aspect. This isn't just a sign up, and then never see you again kind of thing, or you never hear from us again kind of thing. No, we're here to support you. You have a community if you want one. And so yeah, that would be my answer to that. I kind of really did a lot of research on that. So in that area, I feel like I should have done more research on the founder and the entrepreneurship side, probably when I was starting off.
Cool. Thanks so much for sharing. Amazing lessons. And can you tell us how people can find you and how they can support your work?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for this platform, really. So people can find us by search it or by going online to consey.org. So that's KONSEYE.org. We're also on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Consey, the Mentorship Network. You can find us there at Consey Network, all one word, on LinkedIn, IG, Facebook, Twitter, and so on.
Okay.
And
And
also,
to our
like I
audience,
mentioned, we have the summit. So you can also find out more about the summit, about our amazing speakers, if you visit summit.consey.org. That's it.
okay, thanks for sharing. And to our audience, you can find out more information and the links that Adejoké had mentioned in the show notes. Now it's time for our signature question. Can you please fill in the blank? I amplify.
Ooh, I amplify because I care about supporting people as they navigate their journey with purpose.
Amazing, very, very deep, very profound, very powerful answer. And again, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your insights with us, Adejoké. It was so cool to connect with you in this forum, to hear about the innovative things you're doing with Conseil and the impacts that you're enabling. And also, I just want to step back and celebrate you for being a fantastic founder. So I think as I reflect on how our interactions, our conversation today, I mean, there are a few things which I think really stand out, which I just want to emphasize. So first of all, I love that you emphasized community, holism, and mentoring. I think that that's so critical. I love that you've talked about the aspect of how mentorship is access. I think
Mhm.
that's those are, of course, really important pieces, which I think are oftentimes not contextualized enough. But I think one thing that I think is real, I love about what you stand for and what you've done is, I think, the way in which you frame mentorship in the context of purpose. So, for example, you've talked about you as a Nigerian, for example, how that stems into what you're doing. The name symbolism behind Conseil, for example, the aspect of how your experience with the ICC and your global perspective brings into the perspective. Also, to our audience, you'll hear a lot of people have given answers to I Amplify. Adejoké's answer is very unique because you'll notice that her answer is more about the why and the purpose around amplification rather than necessarily who she amplifies. So I think that talks a little bit more to also, of course, for those, she's a doctorate degree, she has policy experience. So I love how you bring the why into what you're doing. I think that's very inspirational and positive. And so I want to celebrate that about you and also, again, celebrate you for being a fantastic founder. So thank you very much, Adejoké.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with you and to share what we're doing with your listeners. Thank you.
You're most welcome. So I'm sure we'll have a number of conversations in the future. I look forward to staying in touch. But as this is the end of our conversation, I'd like to say bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
To our listeners, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Founders Amplified. I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am. If you'd like to learn more about our guests and support them, check out the show notes for their details. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a rating, share it with someone you know, and follow us for more inspiring episodes like this one. If you're a founder who is driving innovation and impact in any industry or sector anywhere in the world and would like to be a guest, we'd love to hear from you. Check out the show notes for more information. And finally, remember that you, yes, you, have the power to amplify the voices around you. Whether you're a colleague, family member, friend, funder, mentor, or just another fellow human, your support matters. So I invite you to celebrate and uplift the underrepresented innovators in your life who are driving innovation and impact. Let's create a better future for everyone, together. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep amplifying.